Alright, that is roughed out. Now we're going over to the belt grinder and get that fine-tuned down to layout. This is where scribing deeply really assists, because you see that bluing has just stopped being bluing with the heat. Now I can still see the scribe line. I'm going to shape this little thumb receiver. I do that on this 2-inch wheel. And I just do that like this. And then blend in. When I design knives, I try to make all the curves and radiuses and all that sort of thing fit the different wheels I have. It saves on handwork. You're going to find that most knife makers do that same thing. Like, this is a little homemade small wheel attachment I made. Just to get the different size radius I need. I made a series of these contact wheels, and they're just, I just turned them on the lathe, and they have a bearing mounted at each end, and they just interchange in this little holder here, and they're just held in by belt tension. So I just keep my hand on that, bring my belt around, and then I can thread this onto the machine. And then for the different size finger grooves or whatever sorts of curves I have, I just change out the contact wheel. It does a pretty good job. But that's how I get into these little curves right in here. Let's make short work of it. So I'm just looking at my layout line. I'm looking inside the radius. When I see the rough grind start to disappear, like it is right there, then I'm pretty much on target. And I'll repeat all this with up to a 220. I'll stop at 180 and then go to 220, and that's when I strike lines. When I get down and around to this part, I'll get out files and just get that fine-tuned. But I'm ready to step up and grit and get this thing laid out. Alright, we'll put the platen attachment back on. This is a 220 belt. get inside of tiny little curves like that one, you can track your belt off the edge of your flat and then make it bend around. And it makes a nice little tool for getting inside those little curves. And I'm just going till I touch the layout line that I can still see. Alright, so the last thing to do before we go lay out is we've raised a burr all along this edge. So we want to knock that down. So we sit down flat on our plate, and our scribe lines are all but gone, our profiles, so we don't need them anymore. So this is what cleans everything up and knocks that burr off of there. You notice I keep a slow belt speed, one, so I can talk to you, and two, nothing happens real quickly, including mistakes. So you can catch them, you know, before they get too bad if you get offline. Plus keeps the heat down. And then the grinding does pretty much is making a pile down here between the shoes. Alright, so we're ready to go to the surface plate, put some bluing on here, and strike our lines. Okay, the layout blue is dry, and we're ready to strike lines. So it starts with a center line. You determine center. Now, when I order 01 Precision Ground flat stock, I order what's called oversize. And it's just a few thousandths proud of what is stated on the package. One of the reasons I do that is when I do my flat grinds and knock the burrs down like you saw, it allows for that, and when I mic'd it afterwards, it is exactly 125 thousandths. Give or take, it doesn't matter, but we start with half of that, which is 62 and a half. We throw out the change. I want 40 thousandths between my scribes to form my cutting edge, to break down and do my 20-degree bevel to that. So what I've done is I've just set my height gauge to 40, and we're going to scribe, and that'll be fine. So here we go with line 1. You just push down firmly on your plate. Scribe each side. And then once again, for the false edge, and to eyeball while we grind to make sure we're staying straight, all the way up and down the blade, we strike back here. Okay, so those are the scribe lines. Everything on the outside of those lines disappears, and I'll come back when I have the my little grinding jig on that guides me on my plunge to keep everything even, and I'll come back over at the grinder when we're grinding the bevels on this. It'll happen quickly. Okay, I'm getting ready to set this thing up for grinding the bevels. So I'm just going to set that through. I'm just going to gently snug these with my fingers. And then that's where this little piece of pattern is going to come into play. All I do on that is I line it up nice and even with the steel. And then I just push back firmly, and that has set my plunge cut. It's just a fast way to do it. I'll just tighten these down very well. So there we go. Now we're set up to grind our bevels. Now I realize I said back in the first video that I was going to be making maybe 2 videos in this series, but it looks like it's going to creep into 3, and it may be creeping into 4, because I want Jeremy to have every shot of the process, however short those shots are. So I'll be coming back for the edge grinding here in the next video when we're actually doing our bevels and getting this thing ready to go into heat treatment. And the next video will include that and the heat treatment. And then we'll do them with handles and then sheath making in the 4th video. So Now I realize a lot of what I'm putting into my knife making videos is redundant, especially if you've watched my channel. But Jeremy was nice enough to actually patronize me with some cold hard cash. So I want to give him more than just the knife itself. I want to give him a good video documentary of how the knife was made. So bear with me as I repeat myself. And I'm trying to keep my videos on the shorter side. So we'll see how that turns out. But looks like we'll be four videos in this build. So I'll come back in the next video at the grinder. By then the liner material will be here, and we can get on to the next steps.